Deep inside your body are tiny power plants that produce 90% of the energy you need to stay alive. These power plants are called mitochondria. But as you age, your mitochondria start shutting down because they lose the signal that tells them to keep working. This lost signal could be the reason you feel mentally foggy, even when you're sleeping well, eating clean, and doing everything right. The good news is, scientists discovered a way to restore that failing signal, a peptide called MOTS-C, and it could finally stop your mitochondria and your energy from shutting down so you can clear the brain fog, the low energy, and the fatigue you started to accept as your new normal. I'm Dr. Will Haas, and I've spent more than 10 years using peptide therapies in clinical practice. In this video, I'll explain how MOTS-C restores mitochondrial function, why most conventional fatigue treatments don't address the underlying problem, and the specific patterns for whom MOTS-C carries real risk. Here's what almost nobody tells you. Tiredness isn't aging, it's not one specific signal breaking down. In the next 90 seconds, I'll show you exactly where it breaks and how MOTS-C flips it back on. But to see the fix, you have to see the problem. So consider this. Every single day, your body builds and burns through nearly its own body weight in ATP, the molecule that powers every heartbeat and every thought you have. When the production line starts failing, you feel it as fog and fatigue. Here's what's actually breaking it. It comes down to two very specific things happening inside your mitochondria. The first is free radicals. Every time your mitochondria produce energy, they create a small amount of waste as byproduct. That waste comes in the form of free radicals. These are unstable molecules that damage your cells, your proteins, and even your DNA. When you're young, your body has a cleanup crew that handles them before they cause damage. Those are your antioxidants, the natural molecules that protect your cells. But as you age, your ability to produce them starts to decline. By the time you're in your 50s, your internal antioxidant production is 30 to 40% lower than it was in your 20s. So the damage builds. Damaged mitochondria produce more free radicals. More free radicals damage more mitochondria. And the cycle gets worse every year while you wonder why you're so tired all the time. The second thing is the breakdown of your cellular signaling. Your mitochondria rely on signaling pathways, communication systems inside your cells that tell them when to repair damage and when to build new mitochondria to replace the old ones. The most important one has a clunky name, AMPK. So forget the name and picture a fuel gauge. AMPK is the gauge that senses when your cells are running low on energy and triggers them to repair and rebuild. And here's how fundamental it is. The exact switch exists in almost every living thing on Earth, from yeasts to humans, a survival mechanism nature has kept running for over 1 billion years. So when it stops responding in your cells, you're not fighting some minor glitch. You're fighting a system this important going quiet. When AMPK is working, it monitors your energy status. When energy runs low, it activates the instructions to repair damaged mitochondria and build new ones. It's a signal that keeps your entire energy system running. But as you age, that signal becomes less responsive. AMPK activates less easy, and your mitochondria lose their ability to regulate energy. This is why you feel so tired and reach for caffeine just to get through the day. Your recovery slows. Energy that used to come naturally now feels forced. All because the signal in your mitochondria run on isn't responding the way it should. And here's the thing. This isn't something you fix with a pill, an antidepressant, or some expensive therapy. It's a specific biological problem, and it needs a specific biological solution. That solution is MOTS-C. MOTS-C is a peptide produced by your own mitochondria, and it restores them by reactivating that AMPK signal. But it's different from almost every other peptide in your body. Most peptides are encoded by the DNA in your cell's nucleus, the main control center that holds your genetic instructions. MOTS-C is different. It's encoded inside your mitochondrial DNA because your mitochondria have their own separate DNA independent from the nucleus. That makes MOTS-C part of a rare class of mitochondrial-derived peptides. And it means your mitochondria aren't just passive power plants waiting for orders, active communicators, sending their own signals back to the rest of the cell, reporting on their own status. That matters because your cells need accurate energy information to function well. When that communication is working, your body adapts more easily to exercise, fasting, poor sleep, illness, even aging itself. In simple terms, it helps you to stay metabolically healthy as you get older. Your body produces MOTS-C in response to stress or exercise. When you're under metabolic stress, your mitochondria release a signal. That signal travels through the cell, switching on the systems that restore efficiently. As those systems come back online, people often notice better recovery, less brain fog, and less of the constant fatigue that builds up with age. Your body has done this your whole life. Problem is that after your 30s, it slows down because signals like AMPK stop responding the way they used to. That's where synthetic MOTS-C comes in. It enters your cells and triggers a chain reaction through the AMPK pathway by briefly disrupting a process called the folate cycle. When that happens, a molecule called ICAR builds up. And ICAR is essentially a direct switch that switches on AMPK. Once AMPK switches on, 4 things cascade almost instantly. And stay with me here because the first 3 change how your body uses energy. But the 4th one actually rebuilds your ability to make it. That's the one that matters. First, more glucose gets into your muscles. AMPK increases proteins called GLUT4 transporters, the doorway that lets glucose move from your bloodstream into your muscle cells, where it's burned for energy. More door means more fuel reaches your cells and less gets stored as fat. Second, your body starts burning stored fat. AMPK tells your body to switch from storing energy to burning it, specifically targeting stored body fat as fuel. Your metabolism becomes more flexible. Third, your liver stops overproducing glucose in people with declining mitochondrial function. The liver often makes too much glucose, even when blood sugar is already fine. AMPK puts the brakes on that, blood sugar stabilizes, and insulin demand drops. Those first 3 change how your body handles fuel, but here's the one that changes everything, and it surprises people because most people assume you're stuck with the mitochondria you're born with. You're not. Endurance training alone can nearly double the mitochondria in your muscle cells, which means your body's fully capable of building brand new power plants on demand. Fourth, and most important, MOTS-C helps your body do exactly that. It activates a protein called PGC1 alpha, the master switch for building new mitochondria. New power plants get constructed inside your cells, so your energy capacity expands instead of shrinking, which means your body gets better at producing energy. You feel less drained throughout the day and more able to handle physical and mental stress without crashing. And on top of all that, MOTS-C travels from your mitochondria to the nucleus and switches on genes that produce your body's own antioxidants, the same cleanup molecules that were declining and letting free radical damage build up in the first place. So MOTS-C is doing 2 things at once: restoring the signaling your mitochondria need to run efficiently and rebuilding the defense system that was failing to protect them. When that happens, you get faster recovery, sharper mental clarity, and less of the chronic fatigue most people over 40 have just accepted as normal, because the signal your mitochondria were always supposed to have has been restored. And this isn't just theory. The research backs it up. In one experiment, researchers gave MOTS-C to 22-month-old mice 3 times a week. Those mice doubled their running capacity and long-term improved both their health span and lifespan markers. Remember the warning I gave to you at the very start? The one type of person who should never touch MOTS-C? This is it. Because here's the part that catches people off guard. MOTS-C doesn't just raise energy, it lowers your blood sugar at the same time. For most people, that's a benefit. But for one specific group, it's the opposite of what they want, and it can turn dangerous fast. Let me show you exactly who that is, because if this is you, no protocol is worth the risk. MOTS-C isn't a simple molecule with simple effects. It activates AMPK, changes gene expression, and affects insulin sensitivity all at the same time. These are serious biological processes. People with type 2 diabetes who are already on blood sugar medications face the highest risk of hypoglycemia, their blood sugar dropping too low. That can cause dizziness, blurred vision, and in severe cases, fainting or a medical emergency if it isn't treated quickly. Adding MOTS-C to a system that's already being medically managed creates unpredictable blood sugar swings. People on GLP-1 drugs face both the interaction risk and the blood sugar risk at once, with almost no clinical data to guide how to manage either. And older adults, especially those over 50, whose cardiovascular systems are less resilient to sudden blood sugar drops, face the most serious consequences if hyperglycemia hits. This is why you need a physician before taking MOTS-C or combining it with any other peptide, because a good physician looks inside your body before putting anything into it. They'll check your mitochondrial health markers to see how your mitochondria are actually doing. Are they producing energy efficiently or creating excess waste? Is AMPK actually underperforming in your cells, or is something else driving your fatigue? Because MOTS-C is specifically a mitochondrial intervention. If your mitochondria aren't the real problem, MOTS-C might not be the right tool, no matter how good the mechanism sounds. A good physician also looks at everything else you're taking, every medication, every supplement, every peptide, because the interaction between MOTS-C and other compounds, especially GLP-1 drugs, needs someone who understands both sides to manage it safely. And this is the difference between people who actually get results from MOTS-C and people who waste months and money on it. Because here's an uncomfortable truth about this space. Independent testing of gray market peptides has repeatedly turned up products that don't match their own label. Wrong dose, wrong purity, sometimes wrong compound entirely. So even people doing everything right can be undermined by what's actually in the vial. That's exactly why every patient who comes to us starts with a comprehensive cellular assessment before a single recommendation is made. We look at your mitochondrial health markers, your inflammation levels, your micronutrient status, your hormone baseline, and your blood sugar regulation before anything else is recommended. If MOTS-C is right for you, we source it from licensed compounding pharmacies with verified purity. We design your protocol around your specific mitochondrial profile, the dose, the timing, the cycle length, all built around what your biology actually needs, not a generic starting point copied from someone else's results. And we monitor what happens as your protocol progresses, because the goal isn't just to start MOTS-C, it's to confirm your mitochondria are responding the way they should, and to catch anything unexpected before it becomes a problem. So instead of running on empty, your body starts to feel like it has energy again. You wake up clearer, move through the day without crashing, and your recovery finally keeps up with your life. You can book a discovery call with our team using the link in the description below. We'll look at your full picture, tell you honestly whether MOTS-C makes sense for your situation, and build a protocol designed entirely around your biology.